Podcasting from Heroes Media Group with real, relevant, and raw opinions. This is the College Sports Hour with your host, Clint McPherson, and co-host, Greg Dixon.
What's up, College Sports Nation? This is episode 9 of the College Sports Hour. Today we'll be talking about what went down in college football, top 25 during week 10 of the 2018 college football season, and then transition to some college basketball. For all our college basketball fans out there, the season officially tips off this Tuesday, November 6th, with a few top 10 matchups. I mean, these matchups are basically what all of the college fans have been waiting for. It is definitely the way to kick off the season, and I'm excited to actually be able to witness that. I'm your host, Clint, and I'm sitting here today with my partner in crime and co-host, Greg. What's up, brother?
Hey, man. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody, all of our listeners are doing well. Had another great weekend and looking forward to another great week.
Oh, without a doubt, man.
Just a reminder, guys, before we dive right into everything, want to make sure that you check us out and subscribe to the College Sports Hour on iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube under College Sports Hour. You can also find us here at heroesmediagroup.com by clicking on the Show tab. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and visit our website at collegesportshour.com, where we continue the college sports conversation. Don't forget that today's podcast is being brought to you by our sponsor, Blue 4 Tactical. With over 100 years of combined experience, Blue 4 Tactical has put together a team of well-trained individuals that are here to assist you with all your firearm needs, whether it's your first or 100th purchase, it doesn't matter. They strive to bring you the best product at the best possible price. Contact them today to see what the Blue 4 Tactical team can do for you. Be ready, be prepared, be decisive.
With that said, brother, another week of the 2018 college football season is in the books. And on Saturday, man, Alabama did exactly what we thought they would do. They continue to prove that there's nobody on their level, and it's not even close right now. Clemson rolled, Notre Dame remained unbeaten, and Michigan's defense continued to play lights out, and that's 8 in a row for that team after losing to the Notre Dame team that continues to win. So we also witnessed, brother, several top 25 teams lose, with the biggest upset of the day, ironically, happening in the Swamp. And, I mean, right now Florida's they're going downhill quickly. So it happened in Gainesville, Florida, but for the most part, the teams we thought that were going to go take care of business this week did. And some of the teams like Oklahoma, Washington State, Ohio State, and Central Florida, it wasn't pretty, brother, but they won.
And you know what, man, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into today, man. There is so much that's happening between football and basketball, man. We're going to dive right into this thing. But it certainly was another power-packed weekend of some college football.
Yeah, man, let's jump right into this football so we can get to that basketball towards the end, man. So here's how the top 25 fared during week 10. I mean, we started off, we had some good, interesting games on the Thursday and Friday nights. But let's start with the Pittsburgh going against the number 25th ranked Virginia Cavaliers. Coming into it, we're looking at the AP Top 25. They're not ranked, but when the college football playoff rankings actually came, they try to show the ACC a little bit of love. And maybe, because it's like Clemson, who have they played? They haven't played many teams this year. But at the same time, it's like ACC is not impressive. But this game, man, Pittsburgh beat number 25 ranked Virginia 23-13, and Darren Hill, man, he ran wild on them. He ran for 229 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he was really the difference maker in this game.
Oh, no doubt, man. I heard somebody say this over the course of this weekend as they were talking about, they're not an ACC guy, but they were looking at the conference, and there's an argument there to be made that the ACC teams outside of Clemson have done a little bit of beating up on one another. So there's some records there that probably aren't that impressive if you're just kind of looking at the records. But when you go back and you look at the teams that they're playing, there is some conversation there to be had about, hey, these guys are just beating up on one another. Pitt, people are sleeping on Pitt, but with this win, it puts them into the first place of the Coastal Division of the ACC. So, in Virginia, Pittsburgh, nobody selected that. Nobody thought that was coming. But their defense showed up, man. They were able to get and sack Virginia's quarterback, Bryce Perkins, 5 different times and held him in check. Maybe not necessarily through the air, but they didn't let him make any runs on the ground. Didn't let him run around with his legs or anything like that, which really helped hold them down to 13 points.
Yeah, I mean Pittsburgh, they don't have a great offense. I mean, when it comes down to you're not going to see them throwing the rock all over the field. Mm-hmm. But man, that running game with Darren Hill, he was on fire. He had some huge runs, man. He ran wild on those guys, and it was just impressive to see him come out. 19 carries, like I said, 229 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dude, he went off.
It's a big day for him. It's a big day for Pitt, and man, it's putting them up there in some conversations there where they're setting up some good matchups there to the end of the year.
Oh, definitely. So let's transition over to the number 24th ranked team in the nation, man, Iowa State. So again, college football playoff, the rankings definitely switched up a lot when you're looking at the college football playoff compared to the AP. And so, but this game, man, I mean, when you say routes a team, obviously they didn't put up a lot of points. It was only 27-3. But
right.
Brock Purdy threw 3 touchdown passes, and they basically, Iowa State, they dominated this game.
Yep. You know what? Ever since the Iowa State made the change and put Brock Purdy as the starting quarterback, this has been a little bit of a different team there. If you go back a couple of weeks there, you'll remember that the starting quarterback was injured. The second-string quarterback, he wasn't playing very well. And then they kind of snuck Brock Purdy in there. And, man, all of a sudden, he begins to run wild on some things, throwing the ball all over the place and really making a name for himself. You're right, it wasn't an overwhelming day, but he did throw for 263 yards, threw for 3 touchdowns, also rushed for 27 yards, and led his team to a victory, man. So we got to give this guy a little bit of props from a third-string quarterback all the way to making a little bit of a name for himself.
Oh, without a doubt. When he goes out there and throws 263 yards with 3 touchdowns and 2 of them to the big play maker they got in Hakeem Butler. I mean,
right.
Dude, he was snatching the rock out of the air. On one of the plays, he basically just tossed the guy to the side. The guy had a hold of his wrist, and he just threw him across the field like a rag doll, man. And he stepped up. Hakeem Butler, he had a huge day, 5 receptions, 164 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He is real deal. He's going to make an impact, and he will be on an NFL team come Sunday, man.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy. This one right here. This is the Fresno State. Like, where did they come from? I haven't seen them all year, man, and then they pop into the top 25 in the college football playoff rankings. And, I mean, man, Marcus McMaryion, he showed out. He threw for 2 touchdowns, 274 yards. Fresno State took care of business. Their defense basically, when we say they were near perfect, they almost had a shutout.
Right.
They allowed, UNLV for 3 points. Not much going on in this game other than Fresno State really dominating.
Yeah, you talked about route there a minute ago. This right here was this was certainly one of the routes of the weekend that took place. That Fresno State defense stepped up, man, holding UNLV to only 105 yards in the air. They let them get some yardage on the ground with 197 yards total. But, man, I tell you what, Fresno State was able to come in there. Surprised, didn't really see them coming in there. There's been no conversation about them coming into this week. But, yeah, they managed to get up there. They got an 8-1 record. So, I mean, there's got to be something to be said there. Got to give a little bit of love there. And so we'll see what happens as they continue to move forward with the remainder of this season.
Yeah, it's good to see teams like this, though, actually get some love from even the College Football Playoff Committee. I mean, and actually sneaking up there. Do they have a chance to make the top 4 or make a New Year's Bowl? Absolutely not. Okay. But, man, it's still good to see these smaller colleges get some love. And when they're getting rewarded, they're having a great season. They're 8-1 right now. And again, man, they made the top 25, and they're going to stay in the top 25 from this win.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Boston College, an ACC team that, again, is one of those Jekyll and Hyde. There's a team that jumps into the top 25 and jumps out. Right. But, man, they took care of business against Virginia Tech. Travis Levy ran number 22 Boston College past Virginia Tech 31-21 on Saturday. I mean, he ran for 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was a huge home – and that win sets up a huge home game against Clemson next week.
Absolutely. Anytime you're playing a road team or got a road game going on there within your conference, you know that it's going to be difficult. But to go to Virginia Tech, to go to Blacksburg, Virginia, and have to play there, that's one of the most difficult places to play in the country. I mean, it's so loud. The atmosphere is great. We've seen that at different points in time coming in there. And so Boston College coming in there, you're right, a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde, up and down and everything. But then if you tell me that their starting running back, A.J. Dillon, is going to go down with an injury, at some point in time in that game right there, I'm going to sit there and say, you know what, this Boston Boston College is going to have a hard time winning this game. But you mentioned Levy coming in there and stepping up before A.J. Dillon goes down. Man, he was able to get in there and rush for 96 yards and a touchdown. And then Levy picks right back up right there and continues to run himself. Man, ran that ball all over the place. Virginia Tech didn't really have anything to stop them there towards the end of that game. So hats off to Boston College setting up a big matchup next weekend.
Yeah, man, and that is a game. Heading into that game, Clemson, if you look past Boston College, they have the potential to upset you. Especially if, A.J. Dillon, let's be honest, he's not healthy. He's probably not going to be healthy. It's almost like a Bryce Love situation. He keeps getting injured. But, man, if he is even 90%, I think, and can stay in the game, Boston College has a chance.
Oh, no doubt, man. And I, this right here would have been very easy. I think I got a lot of respect for Boston College out of this game because they could have been looking past Virginia Tech, looking towards Clemson next week. Really, really easy because this isn't the Virginia Tech team of old that we remember or anything like that. But they hung in there, got it done, even with some injuries on their team. Were able to get that win, and now we are moving on to a big matchup this weekend.
And let's transition over to the NC State Wolfpack, man. A team that, felt that they were reeling. They came off with 2 losses in a row. Fell out of the top 25 in the AP top 25. But they find themselves at 21 in the college football playoff, rankings. And Florida State comes to Carter Finley Stadium.
Right.
Florida State just got blasted by Clemson. Wasn't even a close contest. And so, and DeAndre Francois came into this game, came into the concept, he was beat up. He basically didn't practice that much during the week. So a lot of us knew going into this game that Blackman was going to start. He was, when Francois went out last year, he jumped in and played the next 11 games, 12 games or whatever it was. He did good. And, man, he was actually impressive in this game. It was the Florida State defense that it continues to disappoint, continues to underperform. They have all this talent on that side of the ball. I mean, NC State snaps a 2-game skid. They rolled another easy game that Florida State I don't even know if they even showed up to. But, I mean, 47-28, NC State took care of business. This game was decided basically going into the second quarter. I mean, they were already up 10-0. They were up 27-14 at halftime. Florida, that's as close as really the game was. After that, I mean, got it. Blackman throws for 421 yards, 4 touchdowns and an interception. When you look at that, I'm saying, okay, we might have a chance. But, man, the story behind it is us not having a running game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the part of that story right there is getting down so quickly and being so far behind. You pretty much have to abandon the running game at that point to even keep your team, even feel like you got a chance to go in there. You're right. You look at the stats there for Blackman, and you're thinking, man, this is going to look pretty good. But when you're not able to establish any kind of running game, your defense isn't able to slow down NC State that much anyways. You're going to have a hard time, and you feel like you got to air it out. NC State had a nice bounce back game here after 2 heartbreaking losses to Clemson and into Syracuse last week. Man, you saw some Ryan Finley jump in there, have a nice day, 240 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns. NC State was able to effectively run that ball as well, kind of get their running game going. So, I mean, for me, I'm with you. I think it's the defense for Florida State. I think it was the running game as well, not being able to get that established. But I can understand why you felt like you had to abandon that so quickly.
Yeah, man, and when you have talent like Cam Akers on that side as your running back, and he cannot get a big game because the offensive line can't block a soul. Right. I mean, Blackman came in and showed some, he was getting out of the pocket. He didn't have much time, but, man, he's more of a tempo quarterback than DeAndre Francois is. So he was able to get the rock out when they needed it to. Obviously, He got knocked down. He got hit in the mouth, but, man, he made some big plays. But like you said, Finley was on point this game. Finley was, 21 for 27, 240 yards on 3 touchdowns. He didn't turn the ball over, which is good. But, I mean, Florida State came into this game with a 12th-ranked rush defense, and Gillespie just smashed them in the mouth. I mean, they were literally, in that first half, they just punched Florida State in the mouth and then just continued to do that the rest of the game.
And for State, man, they had a nice breakout performance there. Not breakout performance, but a great performance for Jacoby Myers. 9 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown, catching the ball from Finley. So a good game for him as well. Yeah,
man. I mean, Jacoby Myers and also freshman Ricky Pearson Jr. I mean, he scored 3 touchdowns, dude. So, I mean, NC State, after those 2 losses, they came back with a vengeance. And obviously, Florida State is just bad right now. But it's still a good win. It still puts NC State heading in the right direction, and they can say they're going to be in the top 25 for another week.
And now they're bowl eligible. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, Florida State, I do not think they will make a bowl this year. Sorry for the streak, guys.
What?
So, all right, let's transition, man. Enough about Florida State and how bad they are. But let's talk about
Speaking
Texas.
of Florida State.
No, it's like, let's talk about another game. So everybody's like, oh, what a great move. And a team that continues to hover and fall out and fall into the top 25 is another SEC team. And obviously they're getting this love because of their SEC. Any other conference, people would be condemning them. But you got Jimbo Fisher. He's struggling right now. That team is 5-4. Two of those losses, obviously, Alabama, Clemson, you would expect that. But a game like this against Auburn where they basically gave this game away, but that Stedman to Williams at the end, dude, it was magical. I mean, Seth Williams caught that 11-yard touchdown pass from Jarrett Stidham with 1:41 left, and basically that right there won them the game. But dude, when you look at it, Texas A&M, 421 total yards to 207. Right. They completely dominated, but those turnovers killed them.
Yep. So for me, watching this game, in my opinion, this game is that, man, they played so great for 3 quarters. And then in that fourth quarter, they started playing not to lose instead of playing to win that game. And Texas A&M took their foot off the gas, and Auburn kept right on trucking, kept running their play, and they never gave up. They never stopped believing that they had a chance to win that game. And all of a sudden, you saw the momentum begin to change with those turnovers. And man, that interception that Mon threw right there, it kind of felt like the wind went completely out of their sails when he threw that interception and really began to turn the tide for that game. I sat there watching it and thinking, they're giving this game away. They're giving this game away. And sure enough, there in the final minutes of the game, you saw Auburn score, and Texas A&M had nothing to answer there.
Yeah, I mean, and going in that first half, too, Travion Williams, the running back for Texas A&M, he was running all over them.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, you look at it. He only ended up with 17 carries for 170 yards. But, man, he basically got all those in the first half. I mean,
when I saw that stat, I was thought, man, he had to have more yards than that, but he didn't.
Yeah, because they stopped utilizing them because, like you said, they started playing not to lose instead of to win. They transitioned the whole game plan. Jimbo Fisher, man, what were you doing? Obviously, dude, you made some bad decisions, and the team just could not recover from some of that stuff. The momentum, like you said, that fourth quarter was all Auburn. Auburn gets a huge win. I mean, if Auburn loses this game, people are still calling for Gus Malzahn and telling him, get out of here. But, man, he comes up big. Auburn comes up big, even though they, again, basically dominated the whole game. They only had 13 first downs. Texas A&M had 28. I mean, the time of possession, too, was just ridiculous. So it's just it's mind-blowing to know that Texas A&M basically just gift-wrapped this present and just handed it to Auburn and said, here you go. You're the winner.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. It was just a couple of weeks ago that we were talking about how bad Auburn was. And I don't know that this game right here necessarily makes me change my opinion about Auburn being good or bad or anything like that. But it does begin to get me to take a different look at Texas A&M and the direction and this team right here is trending.
Yeah, man. Watch out, guys. If you don't want to have the same culture that Florida State has, and this coach, he helped implement that culture that Florida State's trying to get out of. And so it can go downhill quickly. So watch out, Texas A&M.
Knife and jabbing it in there a little bit.
All right, guys, let's transition to another ACC matchup. We got Eric Dungey, man. He showed up again 2 weeks in a row. He shows out for Syracuse. They beat Wake Forest 41-24 on Saturday. He rushed for 119 yards and a touchdown. And Jarmian Howard ran for 2 scores. I mean, Syracuse is playing some good ball right now, just like they were at the beginning of the season before they lost 2 games in a row. Now they're starting to click again. Eric Dungey, when he clicks, that team clicks, and they're headed in the right direction.
I think I saw some stats. I don't have them right here in front of me, so maybe you can correct me on it. I think I saw a stat that said this is the first time that Syracuse has been 7-2 since 2003, I believe is the last time they had a record like this. And it's the first year they're going to have a winning record since 2013. So, I mean, they're really starting to turn the tide there a little bit. Had a great start to the season, hit a few bumps in the road there, but then began to turn it back around there when they played NC State last week, and, man, got another good win this week. Obviously, Wake Forest isn't, the class of any kind of conference or anything like that. But they still got a great win there, and you're watching Eric Dungey play some really good ball right now.
Yeah, but when you're Wake Forest, we've seen them at the beginning of the year. They can score some points. They can get it going. But, man, it's protecting the ball that they're having a problem with. They had 3 turnovers in this game. So, basically, from the get, I mean, they out yardage, obviously, Syracuse. But those 3 turnovers, man, were just huge and things you cannot have going against a decent team in Syracuse. All right, this Mississippi State team, man. It's like you said, the Jekyll and Hyde. What's going on? We're going back to this. Nick Fitzgerald is on fire right now. He throws for 4 touchdowns. Number 18 Mississippi State beats La Tech 45-3 on Saturday night. But man, he went off. He threw for 243 yards. I think last week he threw for 241 yards. He threw for 2 touchdowns, I believe, last week. And this week he throws for 4 touchdowns. Right now he has it going on, man. And plus he was their leading rusher with 18 carries for 170 yards. So this guy, man, when Fitzgerald goes, this team goes. And Mississippi State, if he continues to perform like this is a team that can stay in the rankings.
You know, they have cut this guy loose. They've allowed him to start using his legs. They haven't just depended upon him to stand in the pocket and be this, accurate passer back there. That's not who he is, even though he had a good game this particular week, but we know how up and down that can go. We're learning more and more about the LSU defense and seeing how strong they were. So maybe that game a couple of weeks ago was a little blip on the radar. And maybe this right here is a little bit more about who Nick Fitzgerald is, being able to throw for the 200 yards, being able to run for 100 yards, and really put his team in a great position to be able to win. But the deal is that whichever way Nick Fitzgerald goes is the way that Mississippi State's going to go.
Yeah, like you said, the wind blows. If he's on fire, they're on fire. If he's not, man, the defense is going to be okay, and their defense can hold them in a game. But man, if he can throw and rush, like I said last week, I believe in our podcast episode, Mississippi State's going to be hard to beat. But when it's like, okay, he can't do one or the other or either, they're going to struggle, man.
We'll see what happens this upcoming weekend with them as well.
Oh, we definitely will. Alabama is in the chute. Watch out, guys. So let's transition over to the Big Ten. A Big Ten matchup. Well, saw Iowa come in and rank 16th. Spencer Evans, that field goal sends Purdue past Iowa, man. This is a team that I was high on, a team that has a decent defense coming into this game.
Yep.
And they get beat 38-36 on Saturday. I mean, the guy drilled a 25-yard field goal. Obviously, it's not a long field goal, but with 8 seconds left, man, Purdue basically had no hope to coming back this game. But, man, dude, the Boilermakers, they put themselves in prime position and in a perfect position to be back in the Big Ten's West Division title hunt. I mean, that's crazy to even think about.
We don't spend a whole lot of time talking about field goal kickers here, but Spencer Evans had as much of a revenge game as you would want. Last week against Michigan State, he really put himself into a hole, missing some big kicks right there that his team was really counting on. And so he gets opportunity here. He had missed a kick earlier in the game, but it was like a 50-pluser, so, I mean, you don't really hold that too much against him or anything. But he gets the chance and just kind of – you do. Well, okay, this is coming from the Florida State fan who has the market cornered on field goal kickers, who make every single one of them just about until they're counted on. And this right here, but this guy, he had a chance. He comes in there, gets a chance to kick the game winner, win the game for his team over a ranked Iowa team who had been ranked pretty high, who had like the nation's top 5, one of the top 5 defenses in there. But man, you saw Purdue quarterback David Blow had himself a really good game as well, thrown for 333 yards and 4 touchdowns. Man, a really good game for him. Iowa's quarterback, Nate Stanley threw for 275 yards and 1 touchdown. But man, I love to hear feel good stories of field goal kickers who get a chance to come back and kind of make a little bit of a name for themselves.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you look at it, that receiver, Wright, was just on fire, man. So 146 of those yards, 3 touchdowns to that guy. I mean, that really sent them, to another level. And then having that key clutch field goal, Spencer Evans, kudos, man, because I know field goal kickers don't get much love. And when you screw up one week, you can be 0, and then when you come through the next week, you can be a hero. So props to you, Spencer.
There you go.
All right, man. Let's transition over to a game that you called. Got to give you props for. Yeah. I did not see this happening, but I also didn't see Tyler Huntley going down with a collarbone, a broken collarbone, man. And obviously his stat line, when he was in the game, he was only 7 for 15, 88 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. But, man, once he went down, dude, they stood no chance. I mean, Manny Wilkins was balling. N'Keal Harry led ASU past number 15 Utah 38-20, man. And props to you and Herm Edwards for calling this game and actually for him pulling out another big win, man.
I tell you what, I hope that every single critic that was out there in the off season that was talking about how this was the worst hire in program history, this is the worst hire in college football history. I hope that they are sitting there eating them a big old piece of humble pie right now, because Herm Edwards, our man, our boy, you know what, Herm, you ever want to come on to the College Sports Hour, man? Just give us a call, shoot us a DM, something like that. We'd love to have you on. But man, he's got this team trending in so much of the right direction. He's got these guys believing. 2 weeks in a row now, man, they are knocking off ranked opponents, man. Knocking off USC last week, knocking off Utah this week, in a game that nobody gave them any chance. Man, I saw everybody talking about how there was no way that Arizona State could pull this game off. But man, to get in there, Manny Wilkins throwing for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns. You got Benjamin, who's going to lead the Sun Devil rushing attack as he runs for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, keeping that ball away from that Utah offense, not allowing Zach Moss to get too far out of the way. Last week he had a record-breaking or a career day for himself. Only rushed for 128 yards and only 1 touchdown, man. But you're right. When Huntley goes down with the broken collarbone, that really began to change. It was a close game at that point, but after that, man, their offense really sputtered, and there was no way of getting around it at that point. Yeah,
man. When you look at it, it's 21-20. I mean, this game is still in reach.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Huntley goes down with a broken collarbone, and it's like, dude, you don't now. That 17-point fourth quarter by Arizona State was huge. And Benjamin is when I watch him play, man, he's been running the rock, and he's been representing all year.
Absolutely.
He's been doing his thing. And when he gets going, 27 carries, like you said, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, dude, ASU, it looks good.
Yeah.
You know, and some of these close losses, man, if they could have just pulled them out, man, we would be talking about how they're ranked right now, sitting in the rankings and looking. But, man, if they continue to move and trend the way they're trending, Herm Edwards has these guys playing and believing. I'm a fan. You know, I picked Utah, obviously, because I saw Zach Moss. I saw Huntley having 2 big days. Moss showed up. Huntley didn't in the first half, but they were still in the game. But, like I said, when he goes down with an injury, man, I was like, okay, game over.
Yep. That was pretty much it. And this win right here by Arizona State really begins to upset the apple cart on their side of the division for the Pac-12. Utah had a firm grasp on it, but now that everything's kind of up in the air, and it's really going to be an interesting ride there the rest of the season to see who can win on that side of the bracket.
Yeah, I mean, and just to see how dominant they were too, as far as yardage. I mean, they again had over 200 more yards. I mean, than Utah, and that's something that I would have just been like, no, I don't think that's going to happen. It did happen, and so again, props to Herm Edwards, props to Arizona State for having 2 huge wins against USC and now Utah. Good job, man. This game,
game of the week right here.
This game definitely game of the week. Definitely game of the week. I mean, transitioning, we're looking at West Virginia and Texas, guys. Wow. They're talking about the number 13 team in the nation in West Virginia taking on number 17 Texas. But, man, dude, what happened at the end of the game I did not see happening.
Wow.
Will Greer drops a dime. I mean, dude, the guy had no more room.
Unbelievable throw.
In stride. And then they choose to go for a 2-point conversion. And then how many times, I think it was 3, they ran, I think, 1 or 2 plays and actually converted both of them, or converted at least one of them. And then they go out on the 3rd attempt, and then old Will Greer decides, hey, I'm just going to run it in and win the game. And he does, man. Very impressive.
It really was unbelievable to watch. We're back there. We're sitting there texting back and forth. At the end of this game, I think I made the comment to you that I was having a hard time watching that one because Duke and Miami were playing on the other channel, and you said it's way too early to be invested in Duke and Miami right now. Flipping over to Texas and West Virginia, and I did. And man, got a chance to catch the last half of the fourth quarter there. Man, what a great ending to a great game. A game that kept going back and forth, punch for punch, blow for blow. Man, 2 quarterbacks that were really just throwing the ball all over the place. Will Greer, 346 yards and 3 touchdowns, not to be outdone by Sam Eilinger, who threw for 354 yards and 3 touchdowns as well. Just an offensive showcase here happening in this game that ended up I still can't get over how great of a pass Will Greer threw for the winning touchdown pass right there in the back of the end zone. When I first saw it, I thought there was no way that he got a foot down in there to be able to catch that ball, but it wasn't even close, man. He was in there by a mile. They dropped that thing in there, held possession of it, and then, man, to get that 2-point, go for the win. Not go for the tie. Go for the win. Don't want to go for overtime. Going for the win right now. Man, what a gutsy call, and, man, what a great win for West Virginia at this point in time in the season.
Yeah, you said, I think you were a little ahead of me as far as the game's concerned, because you're like, going for two. I'm like, no, that they should not go for two. They should kick the field goal.
That's what I said. I was saying, just let them go for two, because I picked Texas to win this game. You picked West Virginia to win this game. And so, props to you for that. But I'm sitting there going, yeah, go for two. Texas can stop you because you've been throwing long passes. You can't do anything within 2 yards. We're going to get you on this one. And it didn't really work out for me.
Hey, man, I really thought, I was like, hey, man, send this overtime. This is going to be one of those games that they can go to 10 overtimes, back and forth. But, man, gutsy call. They go for two. They pull it out. And, I mean, just impressive. Props. I mean, the defense is obviously – I mean, there was over 1,000 yards combined in this game. Texas turns the ball over just one time. But, I mean, it was like, where's the defense? There was none. So if you're an offensive guy, you love this game, which I did.
True story.
I love watching games where there's just shootout. I just pray one day there's 100, like somebody just every time they touch the ball, it's like we're gonna score. But the defense, man, what were y'all even doing? I mean, they really didn't slow anybody down. I mean, dude, you're gonna have to be somebody that's a team that wants to claim that you're back and back in the national, conversation to make the college football playoff. And I know neither one of these teams have a chance to do that right now. I mean, I don't see West Virginia. Got it. They've lost once. I just don't see them being that team to scoot in there because their defense is so suspect. And this game shows it. But the offense is on point. Will Grier, like I said, he's a professional in college right now. He dropped that dime and helped them walk away off that field, man, with a W.
We can talk about this, as we start talking about the college football playoff and stuff like that. I'm with you. I don't see West Virginia being able to sneak in there in that conversation unless you see some major shakeup happening up there in that top four, even beyond Notre Dame losing or anything like that. I think you're going to have to see some more major shakeup just beyond that.
Yeah. So let's transition to the SEC, man. I mean, this is a game that a team that has me scratching my head. I know that they've struggled on offense the last few years. And I knew that offensively, and this when I'm talking about Florida right now. They play. Mizzou comes into the swamp, and I'm like, Florida's going to take care of business. Florida defensively will just be too good. They'll be able to stop them. They'll score enough to win this game. But dude, that couldn't have been further from the truth. Mizzou basically burned them. Drew Lock was on fire. That's 2 years in a row where he just humiliated Florida. I mean, he throws for 3 touchdown passes. And the defense, man, they just stepped up and shut Florida out.
Oh, man, I tell you what, Florida's looking for a bounce back game this week after that loss to Georgia, and you see Missouri coming up on the schedule. Now, Missouri's not exactly a cakewalk or anything like that, but they haven't won a game in the conference yet this year until this weekend. And exactly. Drew Lock, he's had a decent season, but he hadn't had a great season until he plays Florida. Evidently, that's what he needs. He needs to start off every year with Florida. And then he would be in great shape. He'd had himself a monster year or anything like that. So, I mean, you're looking for something to happen. The Tiger defense showed up. They stepped up. They forced Dan Mullen to bench their starting quarterback, Franks, late in the third quarter to try to, ignite that offense. I saw where Dan already said that, Franks is still their starting quarterback, but he only completed 7 passes. 7 passes. Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna win a game when your quarterback. You can run the ball you want to, but you got to be able to complete more than 7 passes, and it just didn't work out too well for him.
Yeah, Florida's going to figure out quickly that Frank, he's not the man. He's not going to be the kid that gets this team going. And obviously, experimenting with the backup quarterback is probably the way I would go to see what Trask has. But man, who knows? Obviously, Dan Mullen's sticking to Felipe Franks, and I got it. Doesn't want to pull the plug on too early, but man, this season you might as well go ahead and start experimenting. Obviously, having 3 losses already, got it. Your season's not in shambles. You've already made a bowl game, so
exactly.
Why not go ahead and make that switch
to make a better bowl?
Exactly. So this game right here, another game that surprised me. Scott Frost, Nebraska, the Cornhuskers, man. Ohio State needed a second half rally. They found themselves behind at halftime, 21-16. And Ohio State had to, like I said, have to come back from behind. J.K. Dobbins ran for 3 touchdowns. Dwayne Hopkins Jr. passed for 2 more. And Ohio State had to use the second half comeback to rally against Nebraska, of all teams.
Yep. it was earlier this season, we were talking about this high-powered Ohio State offense, and we were really focusing in on Dwayne Haskins and him throwing the ball. And he had an okay day as far as yardage was concerned and touchdowns. He threw for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he went 18 of 32. This is a guy who was in that Heisman, conversation there earlier this season. Those are not necessarily Heisman numbers. So, it was really the running game that really got them a lot of love, something that we hadn't really been able to see for the majority of this season. They ran the ball for 229 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, they were able to really get that ball going there. But Nebraska gave them everything they could handle, which might be the surprise of the weekend with this team that was just a few weeks ago was still looking for their first win. It wasn't that far ago, but it looks like Scott Frost has got this team at least believing in that this is a program that's headed in the right direction.
Yeah, man, I don't know if you saw some of the highlights of this game or if you watched it. This is not a game that was on my radar, but I did see probably the worst onside kick in football history where you kick it backward. I don't know how that happens.
It's not good.
That was bad. And then the young quarterback, Martinez, dude, he tries to throw the ball away. He throws the ball behind the line of scrimmage. Like, he was running backwards and threw the ball backwards and thought that was, logically okay. And and Ohio State gets the ball for that turnover. That was just two of the worst plays I've probably seen in a long time in college football. Nebraska made them and still almost had a chance to win this game.
So does that say more about Nebraska or does that say more about Ohio State?
I have no idea. We'll just leave it at that. This game was not something that I would be proud of if I was Nebraska because you had a chance, but some of those crazy plays that you ended up doing, I know you don't practice that way. And I know you know the rule book and you know what's legal and what you should do as a quarterback and what you shouldn't do as a kicker, stuff like that, man. Just simple stuff that you probably need to study a little bit more going into this game.
Hey, man, don't pick on the kicker. He tried. He was trying to make a play there on that surprise on.
He tried.
Okay, I can't say it with a straight face, okay? I'm trying.
All right, man. So another team that we're high on, man, a team that I thought, would take care of business. And I thought they were going to come out and score more points than they did. But California proved that them winning last week and holding Stanford, that team or Washington it was, to that 12-10 win, that their defense is good. And they showed that against, Washington State. Washington State, Gardner Minshew, he stepped up huge and threw that 10-yard TD pass, to Issa Winston Jr. with 32 seconds left to extend their, long shot quest to crash the college football playoff, man. But they still have a chance.
They still have a chance.
When I'm looking at that, and going back to the other game, last week we were looking at it and saying, why was Ohio State, how are they 8, and moving up? But see, the College Football Playoff Committee actually did a role reversal, and I give them a lot of love for that because they gave Washington State a lot more love than and deservingly so.
Absolutely.
And so, like I said, that long shot quest, they're right there. If they continue to win, they're going to have to start winning a little more impressively. But I think Washington State, they do have a chance.
Well, I think that there's going to be some credit they're given to California. Even though they're not ranked, they did just knock off Washington last week. So you're coming in there looking to knock off the second team from the state of Washington again. And also say this, if you're a Mike Leach coach team and you tell me that you're only scoring 19 points, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you that you're going to lose because you know that Mike Leach isn't coaching a whole lot of defense in there. But Gardner Minshew having that game right there. But it was the defense there for Washington State that stepped up, getting that interception in the end zone there midway through the fourth quarter, kind of stopping and halting that California drive right there. They really could have been the go-ahead score for them and put that game away there before this final drive touchdown ever took place. So, there's a lot of things that fell right for this Washington State team, even though they may not have put up the amount of points that you would have expected them to put up.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at the stat line for Gardner. When he's 35 for 51, 334 yards, you're looking for more touchdown passes out of that.
Absolutely.
But, man, hey, they get the win. They are moving in the right direction, and they're going to continue to get my love until the wheels fall off.
Yeah, man, and who knows, that could happen next week. But but for right now, man, they're still moving up the ranks.
Yeah, and so we talked about a game that had no defense earlier, the West Virginia-Texas game.
Yeah.
And then we transitioned to another team, the same, another set of teams, same conference, and we get similar results. You're looking at this Oklahoma team. Kyler Murray started off the game horribly. He threw a pair of early interceptions. But, man, he transitioned and he turned that around quickly and helped lead his team to victory. So they beat Texas Tech 51-46, but again, man, no defense.
I tell you what, that right there might be the story of that conference. That we're not going to play defense. Matter of fact, we're just going to take that phase completely out of the game. We're not even going to have we're not even going to recruit defensive players. We're only going to recruit offensive players, and we'll just throw random people out there to play defense. But you've got, man, these massive offenses that are, man, just putting up points. And we hadn't said it in a couple weeks, so we need to say it. They're putting up video game like numbers, and you know, just kind of throwing out there some records. Man, you mentioned Kyler Murray digging a huge hole for his team, but man, I tell you what, I got to have a lot of respect for him because he shook it off and began to play a really good game in there and led his team to come back. Ended up throwing for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns while running for 100 yards and another score as well. Man, big props to them. Want to give a little bit of love to Texas Tech quarterback Alex Bowman, who was playing well before he had to be taken out of the game because of that reoccurrence to that partially collapsed lung that caused him to miss some time earlier this season, man. So best wishes to him. He was playing a good game, really good game for Texas Tech as well. And then that was kind of an interesting duel to watch as it was taking place.
It was, man, and they were going back and forth. And unfortunately for Texas Tech, that happened. No telling what could happen. They could have had a lot better result at the end of the day. But, man, Kyler Murray, Oklahoma, they hold them off, win 51-46. And, I mean, continue to march forward. They still only have one loss on the year, which was Texas.
Right.
But, man, it's like one of those things, man. If you're going to compete, especially after watching the number one team in the nation play this week, if you're going to compete with them, that defense is going to have to be on point. Obviously, they have an offense to go along with it. But, man, you cannot allow, when you're Oklahoma or Texas Tech, I mean, Oklahoma's had 683 yards in this game. That offense is legit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But their defense gives up 473. I mean, so just
and that's
imagine.
a Texas Tech team.
Yeah, exactly. And just imagine when you got Tua, I mean, just on point, dropping dimes. And I mean, guys, you're going to have to step up to play with this Alabama team, which is letting you know right now.
Huge stepping up got to be done.
So let's go to a big SEC matchup.
Yeah, man.
Man, this was huge. You had number 6 Georgia playing against number 9 Kentucky. I mean, a battle of two top 10 teams. Nobody thought Kentucky would be in this position, but Georgia showed why they're where they're at. Obviously, they lost. You know, had a bad loss, a tough loss. You know, but they bounced back in this game, and they really dominated it. Once I saw that Kentucky fell behind 14-3, I think I texted you and I was like, they're not coming back to win this game because it's not going to be a repeat. Georgia is not Missouri. They're not going to allow that team to get back in the game. And, I mean, they took care of business.
Well, I tell you what, man, you don't know this for a fact, but you got to believe that, man, those Georgia players were hearing some of the same things that we were hearing all across the country about this Kentucky team. They were hearing about Kentucky's running back, Bobby Snell, and the massive running game that they had. They're hearing about the Kentucky defense, and it was really the Georgia running game and the Georgia defense that put on that's right, that put on a show. Man, you saw DeAndre Swift run for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then you saw Elijah Holyfield run for 115 yards as well. Jake Fromm was efficient, but he didn't need to do a whole lot. He threw for 113 yards and 1 touchdown. And then but the offense wasn't to be outdone by that defense, man. They held Snell to only 73 yards of running the ball. I mean, and they made Wilson be the primary ball handler for that team, having to win the game with his arm, and he just couldn't do it. Yeah, man. It's just, unfortunately, it's just when you have a good defense, but your offense just is hit or miss. You're going to have these games, and when you run up against a buzzsaw like Georgia right now, playing some good ball, you're just gonna have to take this L and move on to next week and try to get better. There you go. But hey, look, Kentucky's had an amazing season. The season's not over for them yet. I mean, they are bowl eligible already. They're going to work their way to a better bowl. But man, they got a lot to build on with this program coming out of this season too. Yeah, I mean, but this game really decided, who the SEC championship game. You're going to have Georgia and Alabama ahead, squaring off. So this was I've heard of this game before. Yeah, so this was huge implications. Oh yeah. And dude, it would have been unheard of if Kentucky made it. We would have still gave them no chance against Alabama, but still, I really gave them no chance against Georgia too. When you're thinking about it, exactly. Obviously in my predictions, I was like, I'm going with Kentucky, but that's because it was 1:00 in the morning. Yeah, 1:00 in the morning, and I wanted to see Kentucky win. There you go. All right, man, let's go to this game. Yeah. I mean, just talk about let's how good is this Michigan defense? Because
they straight shut out Trace McSorley in this Penn State offense. They beat them. They routed them 42-7. And that right there sends them to their 8th win in a row. And I'm just every week I get more impressed by this Michigan team.
Absolutely. And this is another one of those teams right there that I wasn't high on at the beginning of the season, coming out of that loss to Notre Dame week 1. And even the following weeks after that, man, I just didn't feel like that Shea Patterson was living up to the hype. And, man, am I eating a whole lot of crow right now over Shea. I watched him play in this game, man, and he looked really, really comfortable, made some great throws, and made some great decisions with the ball in his hands as he was running the ball as well. The revenge tour for Michigan is in full effect for this game. They're taking out Wisconsin, took out Michigan State. Now they're taking on Penn State, got their eyes squarely on the Ohio State Buckeyes coming up in a couple of weeks. That defense is playing lights out. They only allowed that touchdown there late in the fourth quarter there. It should have been a shutout for them. Man, McSorley never looked comfortable as he only completed 5 passes. In an entire game, he only completed 5 passes, man. That blows my mind how well this Michigan defense is playing.
Yeah, I mean, when I say lights out, this team is on another level defensively. Obviously, for me, when I'm looking at it, they're going to have to step the offensive side. Obviously, they score 42 points.
Yep.
And I got it. And everybody's like, what are you talking about offensively? But when you look at Shea Patterson, obviously he didn't have to put up huge numbers. But
right.
he went for 11 for 1,744 yards. But when you think about it, he's going to have to play bigger when it comes down to, his stat line is going to have to be in the 300s to be able to compete. Plus, they're going to have to make Alabama turn the ball over multiple times to stand a chance. And that's what they did against Penn State. They forced them to 3 turnovers. Again, lights out. The Michigan defense is for real. I'm still not buying the offense, but that's just me.
No, I think there's a little bit said there that McSorley may have not been 100% coming into this game. There was one particular drive there, and I believe it was the third quarter, where he came out and the backup came in there, and he proceeded to throw a quick pick six to the Michigan defender there that really kind of helped solidify this thing. So I don't know how healthy he was, but whether he's healthy or not, he just never looked comfortable in that game.
Yeah, I think even a hurt Trace McSorley, he gives them a better chance.
Absolutely.
But, take it for what it is. They ended up getting dominated. So it is what it is. Let's go to Notre Dame, man. Notre Dame, number 3 team in the nation, look impressive. They continue to win. This is a game that I was calling for the upset. I thought Northwestern had it in them to pull it off because they're playing, they're playing at home, and they hung with them.
Absolutely. This game was close.
Exactly. This game was close, but at the end of the day, man, Ian Book threw for 2 touchdown passes. He ran for a 23-yard score, just shot out of the gate in the closing minutes to really close out this game. Notre Dame wins. This historically would everybody would say upset, but, man, they step up, they win big, and they continue to move forward and get closer to that college football playoff.
I think everybody needs to become more aware of this Northwestern football program because, man, they have played – it seems like every time I turn around, man, they're playing some top teams really, really tough. They're upsetting some teams in there. So, man, this program is really going in a really great direction for them. And, this game, 7-7 at the half. So it wasn't like it was a blowout. They kind of got behind there in the third quarter, but then made a run in the fourth quarter. I think it was 21-24 at that point, and it took a touchdown there to kind of seal the victory there about midway through the fourth quarter. But man, once again, it's another one of those teams here that made a quarterback change midway or early on in the season. Notre Dame is a different team with Ian Book at the helm. Man, really driving this train really, really well, and man, got Notre Dame sitting pretty at 9-0. That is sitting there with their kind of solidified their position as a top team in the country.
Yeah, that offense was struggling before they made that quarterback switch, and man, since then they've taken off. They're playing on another level offensively, and I think from the big, where was he in Book? Why wasn't he starting at the beginning of the year? But man, he's taking that team to the next level, and Notre Dame right now, I would say they're for real.
Absolutely.
So, man, number 2 team in the nation did exactly what we thought they would do. They continue to roll from last week and the week before that. I mean, they dominate Florida State. They dominate NC State. It's just they're just dominating, and and they roll against Louisville. We thought they were going to do it. They win 77-16.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Lawrence didn't even have to play. I think he barely threw maybe 10 passes, and they sat the bench. Threw 2 touchdown passes in his short stint as QB1 before Bryce takes over and was 6 for 7, 110 yards and 3 touchdown passes. I mean, dude, Louisville is horrible. Clemson is good, and that's all I got to say about that.
Well, when you got 3 backs that go over 100 yards as you're running the ball, you don't need your quarterbacks to do a whole lot. Man, what else are you going to say about this game? It was an overwhelming, dominating performance. Nobody predicted 77-16, but Clemson can roll on, and they can look forward to at least a matchup of 2 ranked teams going into next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game. They got to watch out. BC can, like we said earlier, that they can sneak in there. So if they try to look past this game,
yeah,
watch out. I don't think BC is going to allow you to get 661 total yards, but hey, we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Clemson's still really, really good.
Yeah, man. So, brother, this game, the game of the week. It's supposed to be
game of the week.
It's supposed to be the game of the week. The game of the week. College game day is there. Everything's going, okay, we got it. There's a lot of people like, LSU, this is their time.
Yep.
They're going to do it. They're going to pull off the upset. But like I've been saying all year, LSU's offense is suspect. They have a great
good way of putting it.
Great elite defense. But even that great elite defense got smacked in the mouth and gave up 29 points. And they get shut out. Alabama rolled in this game 29-0. Tua throws his first pick. Got it.
That's about it.
But after that, he drops a dime. So it's like short-term memory, boom. I'll erase that. Let's move on. He showed he's still a young quarterback, but at the same time he's a veteran in a young man's body.
Yeah,
he's doing things.
Exactly.
He's dropping dimes. He's smart. He runs. He's even injured. Dude, he's injured. He's not 100% healthy. He runs for a 44-yard touchdown in the toughest game they've played all year. But dude, they dominated this game.
We give, and rightfully so, we give a lot of love to that Alabama offense, man, because they are playing extremely well. But, man, that defense is showing up every single week here lately as well. Was able to sack Joe Burrow 5 times and intercepted him once. Obviously, that interception was a little bit later on in the game, but still was able to create a turnover there. And a stat for me will show you how dominant Alabama was in this game. They outgained LSU 576 yards to 196.
Boom! Drop the mic.
And we're still saying, and there's still that conversation out there that Alabama hasn't played anybody. You just played the number 3 team in the nation, and you dominated them so bad, 576 yards to 196. What else do you want this team to do?
LSU's leading rusher. Tell me how many yards did he have? Just look down there.
I'm rolling. That's a typo. That's not right. That's not right. It's not 14 yards.
14 yards.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, come on, dude. When you can claim to be as good as you want to on defense.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I just think this shows. I mean, from one week they go and they score points and like, oh, Burrow, they have the combination. They just can't do it consistently. And so you can do it consistently week in and week out. Everybody's like, Alabama hasn't played anybody, but guess what? Even teams that historically, again, when you play lights out and you have an offense that just continues to click, that is hard to do week in and week out, no matter who you're playing.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you can throw some scrubs, some high school teams into Alabama's schedule and out in anybody's schedule, and they're going to struggle eventually on offense.
But absolutely.
Dude, they're not doing that.
Man, I tell you. Now, I keep hearing all these different commentators are coming out there and they're talking about how good Alabama is and is it bad for college? Is it bad for college football or anything like that? Look, I don't know if it's good or if it's bad or anything like that. I just know what it is. And what it is that Nick Saban and Alabama is dominating college football for this particular decade. And, man, they are in the conversation every single year, and it is going to take a perfect game, whether you're Georgia, whether you're Clemson, whether you're Notre Dame, or anybody else is going to be up in there, Michigan. It's going to take a perfect game for you to be able to knock off this team.
Yeah, and it's not going to be something, like when we saw Ole Miss play the vertical game and punch them in the mouth right off the bat. Yeah. You're going to have to do that every play. Like, it's going to be like everything's going to have to go in your favor. Alabama's going to have butter on their fingers or something, and it's just going to be – you're going to have to sabotage them to lose right now. They're just that good. It doesn't matter. I don't think you could put 3 teams out there. They will still run through them. They're just that good right now. I hate to say that, and I'm not an Alabama fan by no means. But
Before
man,
we
when
get all
I'm
the hate mail and hate tweets out there, we're not Alabama fans.
not at all, man. But when it's like, dude, I'm the eye test. It's like I'm watching them, and they are good. I mean, they are just good. They're on, like I said at the beginning of the show, they're on another level right now.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Let's talk about Week 11. So
Yep.
we're not going rankings won't come out till Tuesday, but we got some. Obviously, they're going to be top 25 matchups, and so you got Mississippi State playing at Alabama, and then you're going to have Clemson at Boston College. Just out of those two top 25 matchups, before we switch to some college basketball, which team do you think is most likely out of those two matchups to pull off the upset? Mississippi State or Boston College?
Yeah, so I'm going to go. I would say that Mississippi State is a better team than Boston College, but I don't see Mississippi State going to Tuscaloosa and beating Alabama. So I'm going to say that out of those two matchups right there, Clemson's the more on upset alert than Alabama is. But I don't see either team losing. But out of those two, Boston College has got the better chance, and they're at home, because they're at home.
I would agree, man. So, brother, we reached the bottom line. We're done with college football. All right, enough college football. Let's switch topics, brother, and talk about something I know you've been waiting for. Let's talk some college basketball, because college basketball has finally arrived, and we have two huge top 10 matchups tip off the season on Tuesday, man. November 6th, we have Kansas, the number 1 team in the country, taking on number 10 Michigan State, and then number 2 Kentucky squaring off against your boys in Duke.
Yep.
What's going on, man?
All right, man, here we are. We are finally here, and we are going to learn some things about some teams very, very early on in this season, man. Tuesday night's going to be a crazy night, man. They have really jacked this thing up to kick off that season. Sandwiched in between these two games is going to be the unveiling of the new top 4 in the college playoff as well. So we got some good stuff that's happening there. Look, man, Kansas's team, man, they've got pretty much everything that you would want to try to get a good team, man. They got some leadership in there. They got some foundation there. Some players that are returning. You've got a transfer in there as well. Dedrick Lawson that's coming in there along with his brother KJ and former California point guard Charlie Moore that's joining that team. They've also got some great recruits that are coming in there. So that's going to be a stud team that you got to watch there. Michigan State's always got a good team, man. And Tom Izzo's going to have those boys ready to play. It's going to be a tough game watching them, and they're always got some senior leadership there as well. Kentucky, another stellar freshman class coming in there. My gosh, man, it is absolutely unreal. They've got Ashton Hagans, Keldon Johnson, E.J. Montgomery, and Emmanuel Quickly that are all 5-star recruits. Hold up, time out, put the brakes on this game real quick, man. All of them are 5-star recruits, and they're joining starters from last year, which is something that Kentucky has lacked in the last several years of having returning people that are starters. Coach Calipari is also adding a graduate transfer from Stanford that is going to come in there and give them some valuable minutes as well. But let's transition a little bit to my Dukies, man. I tell you what, man, I've been watching these guys. I've been studying up. I've been researching a little bit there, man. It is going to be unreal. Duke has 4 5-star recruits that are coming in this year, and you actually have the top 3 recruits from this year's class that are coming in there. You've got R.J. Barrett, you got Cam Reddish, and you got Zion Williamson that's coming in there, and, man, going to be getting in, going to be starting for this team, putting in some minutes there. It's going to be unreal. They also are bringing in the top point guard from this year's recruited class, Mr. Trey Jones, coming in there. His older brother Tyus played at Duke a couple years ago, helped win them a national championship. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup with some very young players. And for it to be their first game of the season, to have to go in there and have to play against a young Kentucky team, and a young Kentucky team playing against a young Duke team, man, it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to happen there. These guys are going to have to grow up really, really fast. I don't think the moment's going to be too big for them. But let me go ahead and tell you this right here. This probably will not be the last time that Duke and Kentucky see each other later on this year. When March Madness comes around, it's very, very likely that these two teams could match up once again.
Hey, man, I'm a Florida State fan. I'm lucky to see them. I'm happy. Man, I got to sit on my hands to keep from waving at everybody because how happy I am that they're actually starting the season off ranked.
Right.
So I just wanted to plug them while we're talking about Duke. But, man, I don't think I've been more excited coming into a basketball season than, and by no means am I a Duke fan. My wife is, obviously.
I get it. Yep.
But, hey,
sure.
But check it out, man. Seeing Zion Williamson.
Wow.
Just watching what he was doing, and I, whether it was the viral effect or whatever it was through Instagram, Facebook, whatever it was, all I was seeing was clips. You're on Bleacher Report, you're on all these things, you're just seeing clips of Zion Williamson, and you're like, okay, he's playing high school guys, but he's playing these exhibitions, and then he's doing all this thing, and he's doing what he's doing. And I'm like, this kid is more real. And how big this guy is, like 278 or some craziness like that. He's just a monster. And he's just, he can hop through the gym like nobody's business. He actually flew from the free throw line, behind the free throw line, and did a Michael Jordan dunk better than Michael Jordan. This kid is for real, and I'm excited to be behind the television on Tuesday night and watch this kid and those other three five-star freshmen, and just to see these guys, man, it's just going to be magical, I think, for Duke. Obviously, they're young. I like Kentucky too. They got they got ballers, like you said, 5-star players across the board. But man, like, I don't think the time is going to be too big for these kids. These kids know what they're doing. Zion Williamson is again somebody that I'm excited to talk about and see play, and I just cannot wait for Tuesday.
You know what? That's obviously the big kickoff, man. There's some other games that are happening in the week. All the teams are getting started this week, but there's going to be some other teams that are going to enter into this conversation as well. The North Carolina Tar Heels are going to be into this thing, man. They've got a really experienced team that's coming in this year. They've got probably what's going to end up being the ACC Player of the Year in Luke May for them. That's really going to step up this year and going to help lead that team, man. They're going to have a stellar team. Gonzaga's back in the conversation this year. There's a lot of conversation saying that, hey, this could be Coach Few's years to actually pull off the national championship. He's got a strong team that's down there. Virginia's going to be back in that conversation. Tony Bennett has his team being the class of the ACC the last couple of years. So I'm not putting anything past him. Man, there's some really, really top talented teams. This is one of those years that you can't quite put your finger on who the best team is, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out come March.
Oh, man, I'm excited. And like you said, these teams, who's going to be the Cinderella of the year? Who's going to actually be able to step up and play, out of like the team? They might not have all these 5-star recruits, but man, some of these teams are definitely these Cinderellas. It's been year after year. Somebody steps up. Somebody is that team. Somebody knocks off these top teams, and they get that magical, year rolling, man. And it's just, man, March Madness is one of the best times of year. That's why the NCAA tournament is the biggest tournament of any sporting event out there. And, I mean, it's just huge, man, and it's exciting, and that time is about to start.
Kicks off, oh, man, just 2 days from now, I'll be sitting on my couch with my popcorn in my hand at 9:30 at night watching this thing kick off. It's going to be a late night for me, but it's so much going to be worth it to see how Duke does against Kentucky. I got a couple of friends of mine that are Kentucky fans, and I'm going to kind of reserve my comments a little bit, and I can't be doing a whole lot of trash talk just in case we lose, because that very well could happen. But, man, I'm really hoping that Duke can pull this out and get the season started off well and moving on to a great season.
Yeah, man, and if they don't, I've seen those guys play. I've seen the exhibitions. They're just going to be too good regardless. They win or lose this game, they're going to have a great year. They'll learn how to play with each other quickly. It looks like they've already have. I haven't watched much of Kentucky's and seen some of these other teams. I've been following Florida State, obviously. They got a big game against Florida to kick off the year. Usually that's not a game we kick off. That's usually about around Thanksgiving time when we play them. But, I mean, that's a huge game to kick off. Typically, Florida's ranked, and Florida State's not. So the roles reversed coming into this game. So that's a big matchup for us. We got some tough matchups in the docket, too. We play in the ACC. But, man, hey, other than Duke and North Carolina, man, we've been winning in the ACC. Virginia, obviously. But there's teams where we've been, I don't know if it's like the third winningest for however many years, but I know they can make an impact, and I think they have the talent. Let's just see if they can put it together and make a deep run in this NCAA tournament, man.
Hey, guys, if you want to hear more about some of our conversations and some of our thoughts as it relates to the upcoming basketball season, make sure you go to our website and check this thing out. Go to collegesportshour.com, man. There's several different articles that have been posted there, along with our college football conversation, but some stuff that will help kind of wet your whistle a little bit to the college basketball season as well. Yeah,
man. So, brother, before we cut this short, something we miss in the college football discussion. Let's hear your top four. I mean, we had LSU. They were in the top four. They fall to Alabama. They're gone for good.
That's right.
But they only dropped the ninth, I think, in one of the rankings. I think in the AP again. That's not something we can go off of. But it's something that it's going to be funny to see where they actually do drop, because they didn't lose to a pansy. Yeah, they lost to the team that's for real right now. Exactly. But they're gone. So let's hear your top four, man.
All right, so we will we'll go from 1 down to 4 because we think 4 is going to be the question mark there.
Yep.
Alabama handled business, so they're still number 1. Clemson handled business, so they're still number 2. Notre Dame's going to move up from 4 to 3 with their win over Northwestern, and then so that leaves open the 4th spot. I'm going to go with maybe a little bit of a surprise team there, not the team that was ranked 5th. I'm going to go with a team that's going to jump over them a little bit, and I'm going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs coming in there at the number 4 spot, being able to have a dominating win over the 9th-ranked Kentucky team in there. And here's where I'm going to hang my hat on. Here's what I'm going to tell you why. All right? I see you shaking your head over there, but just give me a moment to explain, all right? There's something there to be said about the way their only loss on the season, okay, is to the team that just fell out of the top 4, okay? So that LSU team, that's their loss so far right now that's happening this year. They had a dominating win against Kentucky, and now they've got a running game going. It has been all on Jake Fromm, but now all of a sudden, Swift is healthy. Man, they're starting to see some things transpire, see some things take place. If they can keep running that ball the way that they're running it and play the ball control game, I believe they can give Alabama a little bit of the run for their money come that SEC championship game.
Man, I'm going to have to put a kibosh on that whole thing right there, brother.
Okay.
And I got it. Georgia is right there knocking on the door. I'm not, but they would probably be 5th right now, maybe even 6th to me in my rankings if I was in the playoff committee and I had a vote. I just think Michigan's playing too good, man. When you look at it, you got Alabama, lights out. Clemson, been rolling. Then you got Notre Dame, undefeated, and they just keep rolling. And Notre Dame's the team that beat Michigan. Michigan's won 8 in a row. So that loss continues to look better and better. Even though they lost to a team that wasn't playing Ian Book at the time, they had the other quarterback, but it was one of those things that seemed like, we thought Harbaugh, he's not going to do it. He's a letdown again. But, man, he has this team playing right. He has this defense playing lights out. I mean, what can I say? Michigan deserves it. Michigan right now, you have to put them in the 4th spot. If it season ended today and they don't get in, man, that's a head scratcher for me. But that's my top 4. I respect your top 4. But again, kibosh.
We'll see what happens comes Tuesday, and we'll see which way that the committee's seeming to lean a little bit there.
It's going to be interesting, man, because that's going to say a lot. So, guys, brother, it's been great. Another episode down, episode 9. Like always, it's been great, and I'm so happy that we're actually being able to transition some of this talk to college basketball. And guys, tune in. And this college basketball conversation is just going to get more and more in depth, and I can't wait, brother.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Obviously, there's a lot to cover there when it comes to college basketball season. So, guys, hang with us. College basketball, most teams are playing 2 games a week rather than 1. So we'll be finding our way through this conversation and trying to figure out what's going to be the best way for us to relay information and opinions to you. So just hang with us through those first couple of weeks, man. We're going to get this thing rolling. It's going to be really exciting as we balance out the end of our college football season and the beginning of our college basketball season.
Without a doubt. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to College Sports Hour. If you enjoyed today's show, check out and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube under College Sports Hour. You can also find us at heroesmediagroup.com by clicking on the show tab. Make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, guys. We're up to like 215 followers. And visit our website at collegesportshour.com where we continue the college sports conversation and post articles.
Like and share, guys. Come on, man. Help us to grow that little group right there. Help us to like and share that Facebook page, man. We really need you to do that. Really appreciate it. And don't forget also that our sponsor today has been Blue 4 Tactical. Make sure you jump in there. Check those guys out, man. They're putting together some amazing things there for all of our gun and tactical enthusiasts there. So trying to take care of all your firearm needs. Make sure you check them out. Be ready, be prepared, and be decisive.
We also want to give a special shout out to our family and friends, guys, and to all our listeners, followers, and subscribers. Thanks for continuing to support us. We look forward to delivering more and more as the seasons develop. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for letting us do what we do. And don't forget, guys, to join us next week for another episode of the College Sports Hour.